Hey guys, Andrew Roller of Dirt Rider Magazine. I'm here with two of our test riders, Alan Brown and Steve Boniface, summing up our 2018 450 MX Shootout. Coming in fourth place was the Kawasaki KX450F. The only change the KX450F received for 2018 was new radiator shroud graphics. Despite that, the bike finished fairly well in the overall rankings between engine, suspension, and chassis. And begin with the engine, it is fairly strong overall, not quite as strong as some of the bikes in the top three. Alan, what were your thoughts?
I like the Cowie. I like the engine on it, even though they haven't updated this bike in quite a few years. It's still really strong. The throttle response was super good. I tested with the leaner map connector. That helped a little bit. It did have a little bit of a lean sensation off the bottom, like a little popping when you were just kind of blipping on the throttle. But overall, I really like the engine, the power delivery. It could get away from you if you weren't careful, but in general, it pretty much did exactly what you asked it to do when you asked it to do it.
Definitely. Yeah, I thought the bottom end wasn't quite as strong as some of the other bikes, but it was still good. I mean, I think the main time of the day and track condition that might be affected is at the beginning of the day when the track's real deep. But other than that, I was impressed with the bottom end for me, obviously being a lighter guy. And I felt overall it was very linear, really pretty easy to ride, but decent power. What were your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I really like the Cahuilla 450 engine. Really strong. It was really good everywhere, bottom, mid, top. I felt like no matter what gear I was in, didn't really need to use the clutch. The bike was easy to ride, the power was strong and good, and I was able to turn some fast lap on the bike.
So with trying the three different couplers for that matter, did you notice a big difference in the power between them at all?
I didn't notice a super significant difference. I think there was more to be gained with just using the Kawasaki programmer tool. They did change some maps for us while we were riding, and I noticed more of a difference when they did it that way than with the coupler. Just plugging in the coupler, yeah, it made a difference, but it didn't hit the areas that I felt needed improvement.
So moving on to the suspension, the KX450F comes with a Showa triple air chamber front fork and a Showa rear shock. The front fork was not too well liked by most of our test riders. Steve, what were your thoughts?
I would agree. It wasn't the most comfortable fork on the track. However, it was good enough to get a good feel. I had a great feeling cornering into corner with ruts. Little less on flat corner, and the harsh feeling I had was still there, no matter how soft we went. Just feel like it was a little stiff, but the feeling was good. Like I was able to put the bike where I wanted. Even the shock felt predictable, coming out of the corner. The bike wasn't the most comfortable one suspension-wise, but a good bike to go fast.
For sure. Yeah, for me, I had a bit of that harshness feeling that you were talking about, Steve. Definitely felt the feedback in my hands. It seemed like the further I went down the stroke, obviously it got progressively stiffer, but it was very harsh. So we softened that up, which helped, but it didn't alleviate that completely. It couldn't replace the actual feeling of the fork itself. Probably with a different, maybe a spring fork on that bike, it might have been better.
It was much better than I expected it to be. My previous experience with the tack fork was on the Suzuki, where honestly I didn't think the setting was very good at all. These tack forks are much better than I expected, and honestly I'd say they're okay. I did feel like it gave me good front wheel feel. Coming into corners, like trying to turn inside, I felt like I knew where the front wheel was, and it was predictable. It seemed fairly balanced with the shock. While they're not the best forks, they're better than expected, and they're definitely not the worst.
So moving on to the chassis, as we mentioned earlier, the only change this bike received was radiator shroud graphics. So the chassis is pretty much the same as last year. For me, I felt like the bike did everything I expected to. It was easy to get comfortable on. The one thing that I didn't like is I felt like on the initial lean into corners, it didn't seem like it leaned in quite as well as pretty much all the other bikes actually. We were able to alleviate that with a few suspension changes, but for me, that was my main complaint. Everything else for me was pretty comfortable. What were your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I like the bike. I felt comfortable right away on the bike. It's a really easy bike to feel good on it. It felt a little stiffer than other bike. Maybe the chassis gives you the down point of not being super comfortable.
I feel it possibly felt like one of the skinniest bikes. Overall, the bike surprised me. I thought it cornered really well. I expected it to be very much a rear wheel steering bike. You can steer it with the front wheel, and it goes where you want it to go. Its biggest drawback is it's a rigid chassis. We softened the suspension and it got better, but it was still rigid. Coming out of corners, accelerating or braking bumps or just down a fast straightaway, you felt all the bumps, you felt them in your arms and your legs, but the bike didn't deflect. So I don't believe the suspension was too stiff. I think the chassis itself is rigid. That would be the only thing really holding the bike back from comfort, but if you want to race the bike, you can race it. It's predictable. You're just gonna feel the rigidity a little bit, and it might take it out of you in a longer moto, so that could hold it back.
So that wraps up our 4th place finisher, the Kawasaki KX450F. Check back to DirtRider.com to see how the rest of the bikes finished in our 2018 450 MX Shootout.